With the Liberation War being wrapped up recently and the blood slowly coming back to my brain after witnessing some of the most high-octane, nail-biting, edge-of-the-chair sitting episodes in recent years, I couldn't help but wonder, where in the world have I seen this before? However, during this brief moment of post-night clarity, I understood that this is not the right question. So buckle up as we're going on a ride across the ages, grab your ruler for we are measuring who has the longest arc, and warm up those fingers to help you count scores because we are about to find out who has done the war arc better. Hello comrade, my name is Mahis. Come, get yourself a beverage and sit down with me. We got two fandoms to annoy. Let's address the elephant in the room first. My Hero Aka has borrowed a lot of ideas from Naruto. The most obvious one being Aizawa, who is almost a complete copy of Kakashi. Both of them are tough mentors who immediately challenge their students and expel them if they fail their special test. Both have ocular powers that have something to do with their enemies' abilities. On top of that, their general looks and attitude are very similar. Oh, come on Mahis, this is an archetype that many stories use. Leave them alone for Christ's sake. Is that right? Here's some food for thought. Both of them had a childhood friend who died right in front of them due to a collapsing structure. Except he didn't because the big bad of the show augmented his body and forced him to work for the dark side. Then, both of them get warping abilities that have similar resemblance, and finally, even their names are 60% identical. Once again, there are many similarities between these two, and this is nothing uncommon nor bad, it's just how story writing is. Every story has already been told numerous times, so the only way they can be different is presentation, which includes literally everything from characters to interactions to pacing and so on. That's why I want to talk about the respective wars, because like with Eraserhead, the bare bones are near indistinguishable, and I'd like to find out which one has better meat on them. To establish the skeleton, we have a large-scale operation that revolves around villains creating an absolute unit of power that in turn will bring the world as we know it to an end, and heroes who are trying to prevent it. The catch is, the main character holds the final piece of the puzzle and must be protected at all costs. Although, without his direct interference, everybody's fucked anyway, so they have to fight carefully if they don't want the plot armor to be working overtime. The composition of the forces on both sides is pretty simple. The evildoers have the unit, reanimated corpses, elite fighters, and 100,000 army of disposable grunts. Don't ask, maybe because Juban rolls off the tongue nicely. And heroes have a Walmart unit, soon-to-be corpses, elite fighters, and an army of disposable grunts. Now we can talk about how these shows handle their meat, and I will try to stay as factual as possible, but some criterias demand a personal opinion and there are too many of them in general, which means that I won't be using any redundant ones like pacing, since both kinda fail in that department for different reasons. So, if I dare to miss something or speak heresy in your presence, let me know in the comments and we'll discuss it there. Category number 1. Stakes. Whose people will have it worse if the baddies win for once? Well, if I had to pick between spending the rest of my life with a waifu in a happy-go-lucky world or going back to the Stone Age society with some superpowers sprinkled on top, I'd open my eyes and stare at the moon any day of the week. Seriously, instead of whatever this is, people in Naruto could have lived in their personal heavens. Sure, that will bring humanity to an end and they'll be practically living in a matrix. Still, there would have been no war, no pain, only your dearest wishes coming true. On the other hand, we have a complete destruction of the order they lived in. There'll be no government, no rules, and freedom will be the name of the game. The problem is, your freedom will be limited by the freedom of those who are stronger and meaner. The luxury items will become borderline unobtainable due to the collapse of the industry, and bare necessities will be something you'll have to fight for. Yep, My Hero's world-ending scenario looks hella grim, and thus earns it a point in this category. Then we have the locations, areas where this entire mess happens, and this is a weird one. The action in Naruto is set in various parts of the world and it certainly feels grand, with all these different terrains, strategic positions, them moving around a lot. However, it all happens everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Like, what the fuck are they doing in the middle of a freaking forest? Wouldn't it make sense to lure the enemies into an ambush or defend a fortified position? Also, the fighting grounds barely affect anything, with the only exception being the command center and the poor cartographers who will have to redo all the maps. For example, Heroes conducting a mission in a hospital on the outskirts of the city will have a direct impact on the people who are just minding their own damn business. It increases the scope of the situation, because it's not just about this main force that, as bad as it sounds, is ready to die for the greater good. No, a regular dude can be a victim of war just as much as a trained soldier, and this earns my hero half a point. The other goes to Naruto for the sheer scale that was shown to us, in contrast to a city and a half when the operation was supposedly taking place across Japan. Alright, time to address the most memorable event from each arc, the first appearance of the final boss. When Madara first showed up, I was like, okay, I've heard about this dude, so on a scale from 1 to balls deep, how in the shit are we? And when Shigaraki got up without the coffee, I was like, oh, we fucked up. He immediately whipped his dick out and dropped it on the table for us to admire, while Mr. Uchiha started off slow only to crank his dancing up to 100 and wipe the floor with everyone. The thing is, we've seen what Tomura can do thanks to his awakening in Deika City, so we knew what to expect, more or less, which doesn't take anything away from his reveal, but it does give an edge to one grumpy boy because he was a complete enigma up to this point. I have to give full marks to Madara, as not only were they hyping him up for years, they absolutely delivered, and no other character introduction has trumped it yet. Next we got a very generalized category, impactful moments. Undoubtedly, both had plenty of scenes that made us feel a certain way, be it talk no jutsu, twists that nobody saw coming, etc. There are too many of them and we have to average them out for the sake of the argument. To that end, I'll compare two deaths that happen on the same side, include a beloved character, and have a direct impact on our crew. Neji and Midnight. Not to flame Kishimoto, but if he wanted to show how brutal this war is and that anybody can die at any time, killing off a character who hasn't done shit in the last 300 episodes is not the way to go. It felt forced, out of nowhere, and went against his entire faith struggle as he died protecting the main branch of the family like he was supposed to. On the other hand, Nemuri's death felt exactly like nobody's safe here situation. She did her best, pushed past her limits, and died alone to some randos shortly after leaving her final message. The kids didn't even realize what happened until after the dust had settled, and it hit me way harder than this overly dramatic crap that served only to push the MC forward.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Point to Academia. Lastly, we got to cover the aftermath. I have a big problem with Naruto here, because after such a catastrophe that was the fourth Shinobi War, the world went back to normal almost instantly. Villages continued to work together, all systems remained the same, hell, even war criminals slash mass murderers were given an amnesty. Sure, I can understand Sasuke, he only killed one fucked up politician and was mean to his village a few times. Orochimaru, well, he literally helped them win by healing the current Kages and bringing our own OP squad. But Kabuto? Come on, he did nothing but harm to this world. He was responsible for the Leaf's assault, countless crimes against humanity, and providing the most busted weapons to the villains.
One eternity later.
争うことはもうやめにするですよ世の中は愛に満ちていますおう愛なんと甘美で慈悲にあふれる言葉でしょう
Anyway, the entire thing is completely unbelievable. Contrary to that, I was pleasantly surprised with how My Hero Aka handled this. It was a tragedy that had a devastating impact on their society. People have way less faith in the hero system, some heroes no longer want their job, and the main character sinks to his absolute lowest after witnessing all the carnage. You're right, we haven't experienced all the outcomes yet, but I have to commend the show for what we have already seen. War brings destruction, pain, hopelessness, and not everybody lived happily ever after. As per my humble opinion, Naruto falls short in its execution of this arc, and the main complaint I have is a lot has happened, but nothing really changed. The lives of 99% of people were not affected whatsoever, and given the brutality of their world, some of them would have been better off in a dream. Locations of the events didn't matter either, a large chunk of key moments of the arc came out of nowhere, and some unexpected twists were actual bullshit. On My Hero's side though, things are way more rational. Both factions have clear, grounded goals, the sites are of immediate importance to the plot, Everybody is involved, with even the side characters having an impact, and the unexpected turns are pretty smooth because we've been seeing signs way before it has actually happened. I believe that the liberation is what the fourth Shinobi War should have been, and it would have succeeded if it stayed close to its roots instead of going into some cosmic threat with Dragon Ball levels of power escalations, because it literally got to a point where the four main characters were trying to deal with this random new villain only to go back to their everyday normal in just a few days. Sounds a lot like a filler, doesn't it? It was I, Mahis, with the unpopular opinion into the microphone. Check out Discord and Patreon in the description if you like. Otherwise, have a great whatever time of the day you have. Until next time, cheers.